Next, we're going to hear from our local panel of investors on why Charleston. First is Derek Mathis, Senior Vice President, SunCap Property Group, whose company has brought several industrial projects to Charleston. Derek leads the efforts in SunCap's Charleston office, overseeing office, industrial, and retail developments across the Lowcountry and Southeast region. Prior to joining SunCap, Derek was Director of Industrial Development for WestRock Land and Development. While at WestRock, he was involved in the vertical development of almost 1 million square feet of Class A industrial space and facilitated land transactions totaling more than $85 million, and was also directly involved in a number of economic development projects, including Volvo Cars US. Derek earned his bachelor's degree in business from Clemson and has a master's of real estate development from Georgetown University. Derek's agreed to be with us, but with just one condition. Derek, we're happy to provide you with your entrance music you requested.
You are my fire, the one desire.
Do you want your sheet of jokes back? Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here. Claire, the fact that y'all pulled that off is pretty amazing. Thank you for putting this all together. It's an honor for me to be here sharing the stage with such accomplished developers as Mac and Steve, who I've just recently had a pleasure meeting. And quick story before I get into it. I've been traveling all week, Sunday. I hadn't seen my family all week, and so as I was coming in here, I got a call from my kids. I got 3 little kids, and my little 6-year-old got on the phone, and I was talking to him, and I said, "All right, I got to go, buddy." I said, "But say a prayer for Daddy before I, go in this thing. I got to talk to a whole lot of people, and I'm probably gonna be nervous." And he said, "Okay." And then there was this long pause, and then he goes, "Wait, why would they want to hear you talk?" He's probably right. But anyway, over the last year and a half with SunCap, I've had the opportunity to travel outside of our region across the Southeast and work on some other projects. And it's allowed me to see how other municipalities approach development and how they interact with private sector. And so it's allowed me to sort of make some comparisons here to what we're doing in Charleston. But what I'd like to do today is really cover three general points. Why we're investing here, where I see some opportunities, and then I'm going to spend a little bit more time on threats, because I hear a lot of these economists, and I agreed with him more than I have some of the other ones that I've heard recently. And so it's a really positive picture that's being painted for Charleston right now, and I think we all want to keep that going. But there are some threats, some you're clearly aware of, and some you may not be. So we've chosen to invest in Charleston. We're drinking the Kool-Aid. We believe in the fundamentals here. Some of these projects that we've done here, you'll recognize North Point, which was in Hanahan. That was a joint venture with WestRock, which is how I was originally introduced to SunCap. Just recently finished the FedEx Ground Distribution Center in Palmetto Commerce. Palmetto Trade Center, which is a 2-phase speculative project that we just broke ground on in Palmetto Commerce Center. And then another land position that we have next to FedEx for a future 118,000 square foot building. So we're clearly not the only ones in town that are investing here. The secret is out. There are a number of developers and a lot of capital streaming in from all over the map, really all over the world. And I think 3 years ago when I was here, I think we predicted that this trend would sort of continue, and I was happy to be right for once. We're seeing guys from California, New Jersey, Chicago, Pennsylvania. So really all over the map. There's several on here that are trying to secure land positions or look at projects here that I didn't even mention. But there's a lot of activity. So what's driving that? Well, we're all chasing yield. That's sort of the bottom line. I'll spend a little bit more time on that in a second. The growth in Charleston is extremely attractive. It's a great growth story. Economic drivers, we all know what those are: port, manufacturing. Diversity of tenant base, that helps give investors confidence that if the building's empty, there's other tenants to fill it. The ability to attract labor. We live in a great location. People like to come here, especially from the Northeast. There is a pro-business attitude, or historically there has been a pro-business attitude. So all of those sort of contribute to and sort of make Charleston very attractive for this investment. And these developers aren't typically spending their own money. They're attracting institutional capital, which a few years ago Charleston would not have been on the radar. So briefly, yield. Just generally, the investment world is yield starved. Real estate's still the best hedge against inflation. Industrial and multifamily, as the professor said, they're still sort of the darlings of commercial real estate. I don't understand multifamily really. I thought it was going to peter out 3 years ago, but it's continued to go strong, and who knows where the end is there. But we've chosen to really stay out of the larger core markets, Atlanta, Inland Empire, some of those, because those guys are in there scratching for 50 basis points of spread. They're very stable markets. There's a lot of demand. The capital will go there. They feel comfortable with it. But we found, we focus more on secondary, tertiary markets where you're taking a little bit more risk, but the reward is greater. So now we're starting to see other developers do that as well. They're tired of beating each other up for 50 basis points of spread, and so they've decided to come to markets like Charleston, Spartanburg, and the capital has agreed to follow them. Growth, we all recognize the growth. We're all here doing business every day. We understand it. People follow jobs. At least that was the traditional mantra. That has changed somewhat. Now maybe the jobs follow the people. But one thing holds true is that development always follows people. And so we, as a region, are the beneficiary of a significant amount of growth, of population growth, and therefore the development has followed. So where is job growth being predicted over the next 3 years? It's all over the Southeast. And we sometimes can get caught in our little bubble, and we think we might be so attractive to people, but there's other attractive markets in the Southeast, to be sure. Orlando, Raleigh, Charlotte, Nashville. A lot of activity in all of those markets. I'll echo the sentiments of the professor earlier, which is there's always a question of when will we see a slowdown, a recession. I think industrial has a longer runway than most of the other sectors simply because of the shift we've seen with e-commerce and how people are transacting and doing business. And the fact that we've got such population growth in this region, you would tend to believe that more industrial development will have to follow here because companies need to be closer to their customers. Everybody expects things delivered within 24 hours, certainly 48 hours at the most now. And there's huge equity demand for leased industrial product, especially in port cities. If there's investment guys out there that are looking for sort of off-market deals in Charleston, good luck. It's tough. Things are picked over, and what is out there is sometimes older product, maybe functionally obsolete. But if you've got a Class A industrial building in this market and you got a good, decent credit tenant, there's 10 guys lined up to do it, and they're competing for it, which is positive. So where are the opportunities? Advanced manufacturing, clearly we've got a lot going for us here with the automotive sector. Got to believe that the tier 1, 2, and 3 guys are going to come. We're still competitive from a manufacturing standpoint to China as long as that holds true. I think we'll continue to attract that as Volvo and Sprinter ramp up production. BMW now doing the X7. I think South Carolina is going to continue to be the beneficiary of that. And like the professor said, I tend to think that Trump's negotiating, hopefully, as we don't get into a full-blown trade war. It would be harmful, I think, to our state economy. But BMW just announced recently that they're, sort of reiterated that they're going to continue to invest and grow. So keep our fingers crossed. Port's been a huge driver. If y'all, follow the news or, in LinkedIn, I mean, it seems like every week the port's announcing some record-breaking cargo growth. So kudos to those guys, and I think that that's going to continue, and that certainly drives the logistics. E-commerce. You've heard a lot about e-commerce. It's a complete shift in how people are buying product. Is a shift away from brick and mortar in the retail. I think e-commerce now makes up for anywhere between 10 to 13% of retail sales, and that's only going to continue to grow. So we're seeing a lot of activity in that sector. It's really driving a lot of the deals that we're looking at. Companies are trying to keep up with Amazon, Walmart. You're seeing the home improvement guys roll out, larger distribution centers across the country, and so that's positive for all of us. Here's a slide that I got from Micah Malice over at the Port. He helped me set this over, and this is really telling. So if you look at the Southern Piedmont MSA cluster, this is predicted growth from 2015 to 2040. we're in that cluster. We're looking at, that was the largest growth in any cluster at 29% between now and 2040. Florida's got some huge growth, but look at the Northeast. So, you know, you think that the economy is doing well and everybody's kind of growing. It's not the facts. I mean, Northeast, there shows no growth over that time period, which is pretty telling. So that brings me to, you know, all this is really positive, but we all know that things can change quickly. And we got a lot of opportunity right now, and I think we're sort of on the brink of some, you know, kind of a long run if we take advantage of it the right way. And these are some threats that I see. These are ones you're kind of aware of, right? Infrastructure, clearly a problem. That's not just roads, it's utilities. Okay, I mean, if you come here and you can't get utilities to your site, you're gonna find somewhere else to go. Labor, I'm not gonna, you know, harp on these because everybody knows them, but companies move here and they can't find labor, whether it's Volvo or whoever else, that word travels quickly. Site selection folks take their business elsewhere. Lack of affordable housing. This is one maybe you don't think about as much, but if you've got a guy that he's following his company here and he's coming from Detroit and he's a blue collar guy on the assembly line, you know, can he afford a starter home in Mount Pleasant at $600,000 or something like that? Can't live there, and it's not just Mount Pleasant. Even houses up, you know, Nexton and those areas are on the higher end of the spectrum. So I think we need to pay attention to, you know, having the right amount of housing stock and affordable housing to be able to house these workers. Construction costs are increasing. That's a common theme across the Southeast. Charleston seems to be a premium compared to where we're doing business in some other markets. I think it's, you know, we don't have a lot of depth in the subcontractor market, so those guys are getting top dollar. The contractors that are coming in from out of town, just like the developers, are coming in from larger markets. A lot of times they're bringing labor in. You got to put those guys up in hotels, drives your cost up. And then complexity of development processes. So I debated putting this one in here. I really don't want to piss off any of my friends at the counties and the municipalities, but I don't think we can stick our head in the ground and act like we don't have issues here. Okay, so I put together a table, and I'm not picking on certain counties. I picked two, Charleston and Berkeley, because we've done business there. But just quickly, you focus on month 1 through 4. That's Spartanburg for 250,000 square foot facility. We just broke ground on one recently, and it was the easiest process I've ever been through. This is Charleston County, 8 months. And if you look at the long lead time items, they're, you know, permit review by agency, and things, you know, Berkeley County, now 9 months. So all things being equal, if the money's going to follow the path of least resistance, this is not easy to change. You know, once you have certain processes in place and a certain bureaucracy, it's very difficult to change. The good news is, I think that a lot of municipalities recognize it, they want to change it, they recognize it's an issue, it's just, it takes time to do that. But this can be concerning when you factor in some of the other threats. You gotta, you know, fight a timeline like this. That matters in terms of a market cycle. 4 months, 5 months can make a big difference in when you want to deliver a building. So that is something that I think we need to focus on as a region. And then the last one, which to me is some that you may not be aware of because it depends on what kind of business you're in, you know, what deals you're chasing, if you're having to interact and work on incentives and things of that nature. But we've seen such exponential growth in this market that we're sort of a victim of our own success in certain areas. We wanted jobs and investment, we got it. And along with that comes some challenges. I don't like sitting in traffic, you know. There's folks sitting on Jedburgh Road every morning, they're quite frankly, they're not happy. Schools are crowded, but that's what comes with the growth. And I'm not a proponent of just, you know, hey, yeehaw, let's just, you know, build everything and let developers do whatever they want. But at the same time, the threat here is that if the counties start pulling back from offering incentives for projects, if there's, you know, zillion people turning out to, you know, you try to get a zoning variance or get something permitted, and you just turn that faucet off, it's not like you can just turn it back on in 2 years when you want water to come out, okay? That all this growth that we're talking about coming and that we're teed up and poised and ready to receive, if they think that it's too hard to do business here, they will go elsewhere. And we'll sit around 2 years from now and say, oh, we kind of blew that opportunity. So the answer to that is, I think, getting people involved. We got a ton of talent in this room. Every brokers, economic development guys, attorneys. We've got a lot of smart guys and ladies that really just need to get involved and recognize these issues. Look, we got a small state. We all kind of know each other. I think we can identify these problems and work together to fix them. But I would hate to see us as a region miss these opportunities. So anyway, I'll wrap it up. And I believe it or not, some of y'all think I actually read books at times, and I'm a little bit of a history buff. I love American history, Revolutionary War, Civil War, some fascinating characters from that time. This is one of them, and this is a Marquis de Lafayette. So it may not mean anything to you, but he was a Frenchman, fought in the Revolutionary War on our side. He played a pretty big role, but after the war he left, came back in 1825, and he spent some time in Charleston as he was touring the States. And this is what he said about Charleston. It's one of the best built, handsomest, and most agreeable cities that I've ever seen. And this is a guy coming from Europe, so he'd been in some pretty nice, well-developed cities. And so I would tend to agree with him. I think that Charleston is an absolute great place to live. I was born and raised here, seen it change. I think we got to embrace the change. But we can do this as a team, and I think we can really take Charleston kind of to the next level in terms of growth and do it the right way. So thank you. Appreciate your time.